federal agent. This area is secure.
No, wait. You can't
Smile
do this.
for the camera, you pathetic thief, my brother Leo roared, his face turning a deep, ugly purple. He slammed me face first against the cold marble of the foyer, the impact rattling my teeth. I heard the sharp metallic clink snap of handcuffs tightening around my wrists while my stepmother and cousins nervously cheered, holding up their iPhones like they were filming a red carpet event. I didn't struggle. I didn't cry. I simply turned my head, resting my cheek against the stone, and looked him dead in the eye with a calm that clearly unnerved him. You've been waiting for this moment your whole life, haven't you, Leo? I whispered. But you didn't just catch a thief. You just kidnapped a sitting federal investigator on active duty. Before I show you the look on his face when the tactical teams breached the perimeter and turned this gala into a crime scene, drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and what's the time for you right now? I want to see exactly how far the reach of justice goes. 2 hours earlier, I had walked into this $50 million mansion looking like the failure they all needed me to be. I wore a thrift store dress and kept my eyes on the floor, my hands trembling just enough to play the part. To them I was Elena, the 30-year-old dropout who couldn't keep a job. To the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, I was the lead architect of a 3-year sting operation. Leo thought he was the hunter. He had no idea he was already the trophy to kill my family. I was a cautionary tale, a girl who had wasted a private school education only to end up couch surfing and finding herself. For 3 years, I'd played the part of the erratic sibling, the one who always arrived late to Sunday dinner with an excuse and a request for a small loan. My father, the late CEO of Vance Logistics, had left a legacy of iron-fisted control and $50 million in a trust that Leo was currently bleeding dry. Leo loved the narrative that I was a disaster. It made him look like the responsible golden son in the eyes of our stepmother, Nadia. But while they were busy mocking my thrift store wardrobe, I was reporting to a secure field office in the city. To the Internal Revenue Service's Criminal Investigation Division, I was Senior Special Agent Elena Vance. My unstable life was actually a meticulously constructed cover for a deep-cover financial sting. I wasn't asking for rent money because I was broke. I was doing it to see which offshore account Leo was pulling the cash from. Tonight's gala wasn't a celebration of the family's success. It was the final stage of a multi-year trap. I had spent 36 months being the black sheep, just so I could get close enough to see the wolves. The air in the ballroom was thick with the scent of lilies and old money. Leo stood near the center, holding court with a group of investors, his chest puffed out like a peacock. He was 3 drinks in. His guard dropped just enough for a professional to exploit. I didn't need a high-tech hacking rig to get what I wanted. I just needed to be the clumsy, invisible sister he never respected enough to fear. I moved through the crowd, my head down, stumbling slightly as I approached him. "Leo, wait!" I gasped, tripping over my own heels. I collided with him, sending a full glass of red wine soaking into the lapel of his $5,000 suit. He snarled, shoving me back. But in those 3 seconds of chaos, the job was done. While I was frantically dabbing at his jacket with a silk napkin, my fingers were moving with the precision of a card sharp. I didn't take his phone. I didn't even touch his wallet. I simply reached into his pocket and swapped his encrypted hardware security token, the small silver device he used to authorize his multi-million-dollar transfers, with a perfect weighted replica I'd carried in my palm. He was too busy calling me a useless embarrassment to notice the slight weight difference. For the next hour, every time he tried to verify a transaction, he'd be sending his credentials straight to my surveillance van parked 2 blocks away. He thought he was humiliated by a spill. He didn't realize he just handed me the keys to his empire. The tension in the ballroom snapped like a dry bone. Leo didn't just want me gone. He wanted me destroyed in front of the very investors he was trying to impress. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into my skin with a manic strength, and dragged me into the center of the gilded circle. "Wait! Look at this!" he bellowed, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. With a staged flourish, he reached into the oversized pocket of my thrift store dress and pulled out a heavy, glinting object, our father's signature Patek Philippe watch, a $50,000 heirloom. The gasps from the crowd were like a physical weight. "I caught her!" Leo screamed, shaking the watch in the air like a trophy. "She's been skimming from the estate for years, And now she's stealing the family legacy. I looked at my stepmother, Nadia, standing by the champagne tower. I gave her one last silent chance to be human, to see through his desperate theater. Instead, she stepped forward and slapped me so hard my ears rang. "You are a parasite, Elena," she hissed, her eyes cold and transactional. "You're dead to this family. Leo, call the police. Do whatever you have to do to get this trash out of my house." Leo grinned, his thumb already hovering over the contact for his fixer at the local precinct. He thought he was closing the lid on my coffin. He didn't know he was just handing me the microphone. Leo pressed the speaker button with a trembling, triumphant thumb. The dial tone filled the hushed ballroom, a rhythmic, mechanical heartbeat that seemed to count down the final seconds of my failure persona. He looked at the investors, his chest heaving with a desperate, sweaty confidence. "Watch this," he sneered, his eyes wild. "One call. Problem solved. My guy at the precinct will have her in a holding cell before the dessert course." The line clicked open, but the voice that crackled through the speaker wasn't the gravelly drawl of his fixer, Detective Miller. It was crisp, cold, and devastatingly professional. "Miller can't come to the phone right now, Leo," the voice said. "He's currently being processed in a federal transport van." The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush the chandeliers. Leo froze, his arrogant smirk twitching into a mask of pure confusion. "Who is this?" he demanded, his voice cracking. "Put Miller on. This isn't funny." "This is Assistant Special Agent in Charge Davies," the voice replied, dropping several degrees in temperature. "And you are currently broadcasting a confession on a secured federal frequency." Leo looked at me, and for the first time in 30 years he actually saw me. I stopped slouching. My shoulders squared, my chin lifted, and the unstable tears vanished, replaced by a gaze that was bored and razor-sharp. I leaned in toward the phone in his shaking hand and spoke with the voice that gives orders. "Asset secure, Davies. All primary targets are in the room. Breach." The sound of the breach was deafening. A synchronized explosion that blew the heavy oak doors of the ballroom clean off their hinges. Dust and splinters rained down as black-clad figures swarmed the room, their movements precise and terrifyingly fast. "Federal agents. Get down. Hands on your heads." It wasn't a fight, it was a surgical removal. Leo stood frozen, red laser dots dancing on his chest, as a SWAT leader I'd worked with for years approached me and handed me my badge and sidearm. I clipped the shield to my belt and turned to Leo, who was gaping like a fish on a hook. "This is a mistake," he screamed, pointing at the USB drive he'd snatched back. "She's the spy. I have the evidence right here." I didn't flinch. "You think I brought the real evidence to a party, Leo?" I watched as Nadia lunged for a ledger on the desk, tossing it into the fireplace in a frantic attempt to save the family. I let it burn. "That was a $5 notebook," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. "The real data, every offshore transfer, every stolen pension cent, was uploaded to the cloud the moment you plugged my replica into your laptop. Under RICO, your protection just made you an accomplice." 3 days later, the mansion didn't have a for sale sign. It had federal seizure tape. Nadia stood on the curb, clutching a jewelry box that no longer belonged to her, while Leo sat in a cell, bail denied. I looked at my old sedan, title in my name, and hit delete on every contact that shared my last name. Not a family tragedy, just a balance sheet correction.